There was an incident that happened in our family. My brother passed away. We had a lot of emotions in the house. So my mother wanted to get us all a fresh start. She found a town called Cedar Hills, Texas. It was a nice community. The school was good. She wanted my twin brothers to continue sports and band and to graduate from the high school there. My siblings were very close. We were the kind of kids that went outside at 8 o'clock in the morning and then come back home until 5 because we were out playing. There were kids all over the place. In fact, I knew everybody in that whole little section of neighborhoods. We played football. We run around in the neighborhood. We have a good time together. But I am very close to my baby sister, Nita. Nita and I are the only girls out of all boys. We were living in that house for a whole week. Then my dad had to take a run. My dad was a full-time truck driver. My dad had to pick up glass in Canada. He was going to be gone for 5 days, which is perfectly fine as my mom took care of us. Even if my dad was not there, my mother kept us together. Kept the structure going on for us. We ate breakfast, went to school, come back home. She'd come in, cook supper, we'd eat, everybody get ready for bed. It was the first night that my dad had left on his truck driving. My sister and I were in her bedroom. We're the only ones that shared a room. We had 2 twin beds. I slept near the window and she slept near the door. I was sleeping and I felt something grab me. I'm trying to figure out to myself what's going on. I realized it was my sister. She's shaking and just whimper crying into my ears and holding on to me. I'm like, what's wrong? She said, there was a man in our room. The moon is shining in, and I'm looking around the room like, what man? Who was he? And she said, he's all black. I can't tell. She said he went to the window and was looking out the window. And then it started coming towards our bed, so she went under covers, pretending she's snoring really loud. She peeked out and didn't see him anymore, and that's when she jumped in bed with me. I'm looking at the window. I don't see anything. There's nothing. And she's like, he's gone. She was sweating. Seeing the fear in my sister, I was terrified. I was scared, but I had to keep her calm, so I just held her tight. She talked about telling my mom. So I said, well, just stay in bed with me. I told my sister not to tell my mom because my mom has a lot going on. I drifted off, but I kept waking up, looking around, coaxing the room with my eyes. We got up the next morning. The way my sister looked, the fear in her face was still there. That day, she stayed with me the whole time. I didn't go to nobody's house. We just sit outside on the patio together, and I just held her hand all day. We didn't talk about it. We didn't tell my mom. We told nobody what happened. Tuesday night, it's getting dark. We go to our bedroom, and I said, you're sleeping with me tonight. We're keeping the light on, everything's gonna be okay. And she says, okay. I'm holding her in my arms, and I go off to sleep. I woke up because of her. She's practically scratching my neck. She said, Couita, wake up, wake up, wake up. I looked at her face and she's crying and I'm like, what? And she's, he came back. Why didn't you wake up? And I said, what? I was like, I didn't see it, I didn't hear it. She said, he came back into our room, walked up across in front of our beds, went to the window and looked out the window. And then he walked right back out again. She goes, hold me, hold me, hold me, I'm holding her tighter. Seeing the fear in my sister, I was terrified. We just sat there in bed crying, holding on to each other. But the whole time I'm telling her, it's gonna be okay. The sun's gonna come out soon. It's gonna be okay. I had to be the strong one for her. It was the third day, and I knew I gotta do something. All day, I kept thinking, why is this person or shadow looking out the window? If you look out the window, you would see a house across the street and you would see an open field. My plan was that night I was gonna get the dresser and put it in front of the door. So whatever was going to come into our bedroom couldn't come in. Right when it gets dark, like at 9 o'clock, we started taking out drawers. And we only got maybe about a couple of drawers out, and we were gonna move it. And that's when we heard my brother, Marvin, scream. We looked at each other, and I opened my bedroom door. I looked down the hall, and there's my brother running. My mom comes out of her room, grabbed him around the shoulders, and said, "What's wrong?" Marvin said, "Mom, somebody's in our house. Somebody's in our house." I just tensed my whole body up and I hold my breath. Tears start coming to my eyes because I'm so scared. Marvin's pointed in the little den by the front door. He said that there was a man standing there, all in black. Marvin said he was looking out the window. Then he ran straight out to the back patio. My sister and I just froze and stared at each other because, she said the same thing. He was looking out the window. My mom turned around and looked at my sister and I, and she said, "You two are going to sleep with me tonight." I said, "Mom, Nita's seen it too." She looks at Nita and she said, "You seen it?" Nita's not in a really good position to talk because she's crying. So I told her about the 2 nights. And my mom just in shocked. She goes, "Well, y'all just get in bed with me then. Get in bed. Marvin and Mare, the twins, came into the room and slept on the floor. My 2 brothers, they're about to turn 17. They're really protected over as little ones. To see them being older than us, wanting to sleep with my mom, that is something that's out of character. But they came in with bedding and slept on the floor. We've never, ever slept in our parents' room. So being of us all in there was different. But it's also comforting having us all together. I feel a little relief that everybody knows, but I don't understand what it is. The next morning, we got up. My mother was in the kitchen and didn't talk about it. Didn't talk about it at all. The whole day we just kind of all stayed together though. My brothers, they're usually off with their friends, bicycle riding or somewhere. They stayed home too. We all stayed in the living room that whole day and just watched TV. My mom comes in with the food. She made tacos and she puts it on the coffee table. She tells us, "I think somebody has a key to this house. I think a neighbor or somebody is breaking in our house." I want to believe my mom, but I could tell she was worried. I think she was just trying to tell us something to make us feel comfortable. Because we were the only Native kids in the neighborhood. My mother had a lot of run-in with the police, and a lot had came with the color of their skin and stuff like that. So I'm sure that's one where my mom never called the police. We don't say anything, we just listen to her, and we're all like, we're gonna be okay, because Mom knows. It's getting late. Mom goes, "Let's all go to bed. We're gonna put the dresser in front of the door, and we're all gonna stay in the room together." We all went down the hall. My brother turned the hall light on. As a group, we all went into the bedroom. She closed the door, and the boys all get that dresser. It's a big, heavy dresser, and they shove it in front of the door. We have the bedroom light on. My mom's just sitting on the bed. My little sister's in bed, my mother, and I decided I was gonna sleep on the floor. I was just laying there collecting my thoughts about everything and thinking everything's gonna be okay now because the dresser's in front of the door. No one's talking. My younger brother, Nishoba, was singing some songs. And then someone banged on that bedroom door. It was a loud bang, like ping bang. The door shook a little. My little sister was crying. She was on my brother's back. And I'm on the floor. The doorknob turned. And I turned to look at my mom. And my mom's got her mouth open and she's screaming. To see her that vulnerable scared me. In my mother's head, she realized it wasn't a neighbor like she thought it was. We're all crying and shaking. My mom, she gets up and she said, "Help me with the dresser." I didn't know why she was doing it. My brothers were all like reluctant to get up to help her to move it, but they get up. I was scared of what was behind that door. I was scared that she was gonna let whatever it was in the room. My mom moves the dresser and she slowly opens the door. She's got one hand on the wall and she's turning the knob really slow. And she barely opens it. The hall light is off. That's what really scared me. She peeks her head out trying to look, and so she has to open it a little bit wider and wider. And then she looks down the hall and she said, "Run! Run!" We all just jump up. I grab my sister's hand and we run. We're all just taking off, running down the hall. I'm looking down the ground. We took a right in front of the living room and my oldest brother, Beaver, led us out the back door. As soon as we got out of the house, we all ran to get as far from the house we can in the backyard. Beaver turned to Mom and said, "When I went around that corner, he was standing there. Mom, he's back in there. He's at the window again. He was in the living room." I thought to myself, I'm glad I was looking at my feet. We're all standing there. Mom's like, "So tell me exactly what y'all seen. What have y'all seen?" Beaver said, he had no face. That sent me oh crap, what is this? It's not a man. No face. Did he have a mask on? All this was going through my head. Half of us sat on the ground and half of us were sitting around a station wagon that we had in the backyard. But we were facing the house. Even though the patio light was on, the house seemed dark. While we're sitting there, I heard footsteps coming. Something walking, coming around the house. We all froze and looked up. He came out of the darkness of the house. And it was my dad. His eyes were huge, just looking at all of us. He's trying to understand what's going on and looking at my mom. We're all grabbing my dad. I was really crying. Couldn't even get off the ground crying. Seeing him made us feel like, okay, it's gonna be all right now. Dad's here. Dad's gonna make it better. Dad's stronger. He'll take care of everything. But I was still scared. He said, "Bernice, what's going on?" She said, "Henry, somebody's in our house. Somebody's been in our house this whole week." Dad goes, "Y'all stay here. Stay over here. I'm gonna go in there." My dad went back in by himself. We're sitting there holding on to each other, and My dad comes out and he said, I don't see anybody. And he looks at my mom. My mom is crying. She is shaking so bad. So he reaches over and he holds my mom. He said, we're leaving. Everybody get in the car. We're going to Ada. We're going to go to Aunt Louise. I was thinking, yes, we're leaving. So we get in the car and my dad pulls out. My dad being there, I felt so safe, I fell asleep. I slept hard until we got into Ada. I think that whatever it was is in that house, and us being there attracted it to us, and it wanted us knowing it was there, but to me, I felt like it wanted to scare us. My mother was very superstitious. Like, don't talk about what happened because it might come back. My mother was really strong. She hardly showed any emotions, but that fear in her scared all of us. My siblings will not discuss it. After my mother had passed, I asked my dad, did Mom ever talk to you about that house? He goes, yeah. But after she told me what happened, she didn't want to talk about it ever again. So you know how your mom was. And I said, how did you come home so fast that night? He said, I was driving home and I was going to drop off that diesel, my rig first, and then get my car and come home. I was coming in and my mom came in my ear. My grandmother had passed in 1958. He said it wasn't a whisper, it was her voice. And said, Henry, you need to get home. They need you. I drove that rig straight on to Cedar Hills. And I got there, and that's when I saw all of y'all outside. I told them, that was the best thing that ever happened to us was to see you.